Welcome to the Putback presented by 888 Sport. Bet $20 on either the Knicks or the Nets and get $88 free in bets with the promo code SNY88. I'm Ian Begley here with Chris Williamson. Chris, what do we have for the baseline?
Well, Ian, you reported recently that the Knicks may have an interest in a Lakers point guard, Dennis Schroeder. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, he's certainly one of the point guards that's on their radar as they look ahead towards free agency. Obviously, the immediate focus is on this playoff push, but they're also keeping an eye on the offseason. And so Schroeder is a guard that some of them like, and Lonzo Ball has some support within the organization, but I don't think it's uniform support on Lonzo or probably Dennis either. The interesting thing here on Schroeder is he's already turned down, according to ESPN, an extension offer from the Lakers that was 4 years, around $84 million. So you would think that the Knicks are going to have to make a big offer, around $20 million a year, to sign Schroeder. I don't think they would want to get into a bidding war for a player like Schroeder. I think they have, several options that they will end up considering in the offseason. But Schroeder is definitely on that list. He's a young guard. He pushes the pace. Doesn't have a long history of shooting it well, but he is certainly somebody who the Knicks are giving internal consideration to.
This week's guest needs no introduction to most Knicks fans. One of the only fans that probably thinks about the team more than some people in the front office. It's the Dean of Knicks Film School and host of the KFS Pod, Jonathan Macri.
Well, I think for me, the biggest thing is and I think he's aware of this, he wasn't great last year. And I have to imagine for a guy who had been at the top of his game at every level that he had ever played at, to come in and struggle like he did, that could not have been easy mentally for him, emotionally, going from one season to the next. And for him to then go and put in the work this summer to improve an area of his game that I think we could all agree is now starting to separate him from the pack with this three-point shooting, I think that's absolutely phenomenal. Again, both from the mental standpoint that he was able to dedicate himself to do that, and then the execution standpoint, right? Because we know the numbers since January 1st of this year, he's been one of essentially the best three-point shooters in the league. And then just kind of buying into what Tibbs is doing and becoming one of the leaders of this team, which he clearly is already at the age of 20, which when's the last time the Knicks have had a guy who you could say that about really took on that ownership role at that young of an age?
Yeah, just remarkable after year one. And with RJ, like they always said, the Knicks said last year, whether it was Mike Miller or other people, like, we love his approach to the game. He's steady. He leaves a bad game behind him. He comes to the gym the next day and it just works. And I think that is part of why you're seeing what you're seeing from RJ this year. But no one saw the shooting coming. Maybe Drew Hanlon saw it coming. Maybe RJ saw it coming. No one else saw it coming, though. And it's been, as John said, just consistent for the last couple months. It's not like a fluke at this point. So this is huge for both RJ and the Knicks, the idea that, he can knock down the shot from the perimeter because it opens up so much for him and his teammates.
You remember when Anthony Edwards made those comments after the Timberwolves beat the Knicks? Will we remember that as a turning point for RJ, or do you think it'll just be another stepping point for RJ's, career?
It's funny you asked that, because I think Edwards, when he said it, it was kind of offhanded, right? I think it was more just focused on like, well, we didn't want Randall to take it, and it kind of came out wrong. But I think for RJ, he sure seems to be filing and storing away all these little things that he could use as chips on his shoulder, right? Go even back to the draft. There was no conversation about him going in the top two. He was the clear third in line. And this is a guy, again, who had been number one in his class just a year before. He has that. He has the all-rookie snub. And I think throughout this season, even before the Edwards comment, he's a smart guy. He knows what's going on. He may not be on social media all that much actively, but he hears what people are saying, and he knows about, is he not as good as Tyler Herro? He's never going to be like the two guys who were drafted ahead of him. I just think this gets added to the list. And for RJ Barrett to come out and have the couple of games that he's had like this, just outstanding stuff for a kid who, again, 20 years old. I don't think you could, overstate that point.
Gladly, RJ Barrett caught it, and, if he would have made the shot, we would live with it. Because that's what we wanted, taking a shot. We didn't want anybody else taking it.
I'm very confident. I can't wait for the next one. I saw it. I just laughed. I don't really care.
This 25 under 25 list, brilliant by ESPN, because they got everybody NBA Twitter that I follow reacting to it. The idea that he's not on that list, do you care? I mean, as a Knicks fan, does it bother you? Does it fire you up? Do you care?
I personally care only in the sense that I think it motivates RJ. So as someone who obviously does root for this team, any additional motivation that he could get, I'm all for it, right? I think I understand the way media works and the fact that sometimes these things are put together with the intention of getting a rise out of a certain fan base or two. I will say this though, people really feel like there is a certain amount of disrespect towards RJ Barrett that's like a concerted effort, right? I don't know if it's that. I think it's, again, more just like they did, like you said, they did a great job. They got a bunch of clicks out of this, right? For me, though, if the performance on the floor is okay, the respect will come from the people that really matters.
I love the conspiracy theory. You didn't say it directly, but other fans have said it directly. That conspiracy theorist angle that the Knicks are somehow left off, or RJ's left off to get more attention. I haven't been there. That never was a directive to anything that I did. I can't speak to what they're doing now, but I would be surprised if that was the case. But that's just one of those things where if you're a fan base of a team that has struggled for so long, for the last 2 decades, like you're more sensitive to the way your team is covered than if your team has just won back-to-back championships. You don't care as much.
It's Knicks fan PTSD, right? I mean, it's a real thing. Let's not try to hide from it.
And the other thing that's interesting, guys, is the fact that with all this, I guess, disrespect, is I think people expected RJ maybe to be a cornerstone or franchise player, right? Like Zion and Ja. And so because he's not, I don't think he's going to ever be that. He might be, a great second best player on a franchise team. That's why you see some of the disrespect and shade, but these lists, they really don't mean anything. John, as you pointed out, the people who really know, ins and outs of the basketball game, that's who you really care about. And when you look at RJ Barrett and how his career will evolve, what does an idealized version of RJ Barrett look like to you?
I'm going to take the cheap way out, and I'm going to go with the guy that Tibbs had as a rookie. I guess it's about a decade ago now, right? So Jimmy Butler, you look at Jimmy Butler, put aside the three-point shooting, because I think that's shaping up to be the big difference between the two of them, but he's a big wing. He's not going to be your starting point guard or anything, but as we saw last year in the bubble and all the way through the finals, he could run your offense for stretches of time. And that when you have a guy that size and that talented who's able to do the specific things that he's able to do, it really opens up opportunities for everybody else on the floor.
Wanted to get another perspective on some things going on around the league. So we're bringing in my buddy Marcus Gradney, probably better known as M-Grads on Twitter. He's one of the most influential, controversial members of NBA Twitter, I think. Some people love him, some people hate him. Maybe you fall somewhere in between. He's also a member of the Elite Media Group. Those guys are doing great stuff, so be sure to check them out. Maybe it didn't fly under the radar because it probably happens regularly, but just some people were posting about the Knicks fans kind of leaving nasty comments under a picture, I think, of Alfred Payton's daughter that he posted. And, to me, I'm not here to tell anybody how to think, what to do, what not to do. But it seems to me like that's definitely crossing a line. And if you're going to say something on Twitter that you wouldn't say to someone in person, I don't think you should say it. That's just my credo. But Marcus, from a player's perspective, how do these guys deal with social media, especially something like that?
Social media has made it easy for punks to say stuff with no repercussions. There's just an unwritten rule. Kids are off limits. No matter what, you just don't talk about somebody's kids. We're losing a lot of recipes, and a lot of rules within the culture now that they have the internet. And these kids just, sit in their, in their bedrooms and talk all this stuff, and there's no repercussions to it. So it's like, what can you really do if, you can't really go put hands on those people. You can't find them because you're trying to go find everybody. Right. But just block them. I just would love to start a show, say it to their face.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that'd be a great show. Like,
I know players talk, and the reputation, here I've heard from a few players is like the social media, reaction, crazy highs, crazy lows. You play well, everybody loves you. They blow up your social media pages. You play poorly, and some fans do get personal and cross that line. And I can't say that would dissuade somebody from coming to New York, but I think it's at least something that is known among some players.
Only awkward time I ever had in a social exchange is when I did meet Frank Nicotina. We went to dinner. That was awkward. So
wait, one of your Frank tweets, wasn't it like he wouldn't start for
Montverde? Yeah,
it was Montverde.
Yeah,
Right?
Start for Montverde. Like, not even his fault. When I get mad at the dudes, it's the coverage of it. It's not the guys. Okay, like I was never mad at Luke. I never hated Luke. I don't hate Frank Nicotina. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say his name. Sorry, no disrespect.
Nilakina.
Whatever, yeah, there you go. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so you feel me?
Wait a second. Where were you? You had dinner with Frank.
Yeah, it was in New York. I was with one of the Knicks. I was with my guy who plays for the Knicks, and we went out to dinner, and he didn't tell me. And we walk in, and Frank Nicotina's right there. I'm like, oh, great. This is amazing.
Did he look at you? I mean, because
he knew who I was.
Some of the tweets. I have seen some of the tweets.
Yeah, he knew who I was. I mean, it's not like, but the thing is, it's like, what does he gain by spazzing on me?
Nothing.
You see what I'm saying? Because the restaurant people would just be like, Frank Nicotina went off on some dude in the restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it ends up
Sorry, Frank. I don't know your last name, and I know Chris just told it to me, but I'll never get it. Frankie N was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I've met him, so it's just like, and I wasn't like, and that's the thing. That's a perfect example. I wasn't like, yeah, you suck. It's like, oh, hey man, nice to meet you. So that's how those people who talk mess on Twitter is. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just how it goes. You have to have serious hate in your heart to see an NBA player and be like, yeah, you suck. But they're not going to fight you. They're millionaires. Like, what are they going to do fighting you? Like, okay.
That's it for this week's episode presented by 888 Sport. For John, Marcus, Chris, I'm Ian, and we'll see you next week.
So who do you think is the Knicks' best piece to build around? That's the subject of this week's SNY Fan Choice presented by 888 Sport. Bet $20 on the Knicks or Nets and get $88 in free bets with promo code SNY88.